Welcome everybody to my driver ratings for the 2026 F1 Dutch Grand Prix. If you don't know, every single Monday we hop on the stream, we review the race, the drivers' reactions, we look through Discord at all the news and memes, and then at the end we hop on Twitch and YouTube and we do our driver ratings. So if you're watching right now on YouTube or TikTok, come join us on Twitch because there will be a poll up in chat for you guys to be able to vote on. But we also do this every single Grand Prix weekend. So join us every single Monday. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in reverse finishing order and talk about each driver's performances throughout the weekend in every session. So we've got sprint quali, sprint, qualifying, and the race. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, obviously, as per usual, my ratings are my ratings. I like to go based off of their performances solely. So let's start off with the first driver who came in last, Max Verstappen. Sag. Let me get the poll up. There you go. Poll is up. So this is how the poll is going to look. It'll be on screen, and all you have to do is type in Twitch chat, the number, and it will pop up on the screen. So we can figure out what you guys want to rate the drivers. Twainy, what is up, dude? Welcome to the stream. On Track Marshall, also thank you for the follow. So Max Verstappen, let's talk about his weekend. Obviously, we have 4 sessions to look at. So Max in sprint qualifying qualified P6. The Red Bull was quite off the pace of the other front-running teams this weekend. Despite that, though, he was only 3/10 off of Kimi Antonelli. Was ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and obviously out-qualified his teammate Liam going out in Q2, SQ2. Max making SQ3. Yeah, I think Max did okay in sprint quali. I think he did his job, what was expected of the Red Bull. And then in the sprint, he finished in P6. So holding on to P6, holding off Lewis Hamilton, and obviously finishing 37 seconds ahead of his teammate. So yeah, I think, again, probably expected for the Red Bull in the sprint portion of the weekend. And then in qualifying, he qualified P7, so he did get out qualified by Charles and Lewis this time by 2/10. Yeah, again, the Red Bull, I think that's where the Red Bull was meant to be. I would have liked to have seen him maybe try to do a little bit of a better lap and get past Charles. But yeah, for the most part, that's where he was meant to be. 5/10 off of pole. And he out-qualified Liam by a 10th. So again, he still out-qualified Liam, but given the circumstances for Liam, this being his first weekend in the Red Bull, I'd have liked to have seen Max do better, but maybe Liam just did an amazing job. Who knows? Who knows? However, in the race, Max, I think he had a decent race start from what I remember, but then got pushed off by Charles. Almost lost the position to Liam as those two battled, and then making a mistake. You know, going on the white line. You never want to touch the white line in the wet. He admitted himself. It was his fault. Used too much white line. Also nipped the curb as well. Which obviously sent his car into the barrier, so ruining his weekend. So, yeah, not really sure what to rate him. Obviously, ruined his entire weekend by a mistake of his own, but the sprint quali, sprint, and qualifying portion of the weekend wasn't that bad. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like it's maybe like a 4. I feel like it's a 4. Like, obviously, race holds the most weight because it's the most important session with the most points up for grabs. I'm not going to give him lower than a 3 because obviously the rest of the weekend was good. Maybe it would have been a 3 or lower if there wasn't the sprint portion of the weekend. So yeah, I feel like it's probably a 4, but what do you guys think? After you type your rating in chat, be sure to type a message so I know why you guys have rated it. When was the last time Max was the first driver to be rated in these? The last race he retired first from. What was that this year? Pushed wide onto the grass by Hamilton. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like 4 makes sense. Like, rest of the weekend, he performed well. Or, like, okay. Like, decent. Like, average. So, already he's sitting at, like, a 6 or a 7. And then, obviously, we're lowering points off for just fucking it into the wall in the race. So, I feel like 4 makes sense. Matched his car the whole weekend, but his own mistake. So, 4 or 5, yeah. 4 for Max normally to be an experienced, wet, good driver. It's a bad mistake from him, yeah. Again, it's an easy mistake to make. I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's washed or anything like that, like some people are doing. But, yeah. Anyways, majority of you guys said 5. I think that's fair, but I'd probably go 4. Yeah. Okay, next driver. We have got Ollie Behrman. What do you rate Ollie Behrman's weekend out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. So, Ollie, in sprint quali, he qualified P17. He went out in SQ1. He got out-qualified by his teammate by 2/10. He also got out-qualified by Alex Albon. He did out-qualify Carlos Sainz, though. And then, in the sprint, he managed to move his way up past Albon, but still finished behind his teammate. So, yeah, pretty underwhelming from from Behrman to get out-qualified by his teammate and Albon, but at least he did okay in the sprint. And then, in Normal qualifying. Qualified P20. He got out qualified by both Astons, by both Williams, and was 3/10 down on his teammate. Sorry, I forgot to mention, he was 2/10 down on his teammate in sprint quali, 3/10 down in normal quali. Then, in the race, don't really remember what happened on the race start for him. Let me just quickly check. Did he lose any positions off the start? I guess we actually don't see the timing, so we won't know. Yeah, not really sure what happened to him at the start, but then on the restart, his car broke down. Not his fault, but if you were to judge the rest of the weekend, I mean, behind his teammate in all 3 sessions, out in Q1 in both qualifyings, did okay in the sprint. Yeah, I think it was a pretty poor weekend. Not having any crash, not having any major problems, just a slow weekend from Behrman. So I'm gonna give him a 3. Maybe if he had fucked up the race as well, I would have given him lower than a 3. But he obviously didn't compete in the race, so I think a 3 is fair. Gabe made a smaller mistake as well, but saved it. It's a 3. His entire weekend, apart from the race, was okay, but the crash was a rookie error. Yeah, true. That was in relation to Max. I don't think that he could do better than a P6 in the main race. Stupid mistake ruined the race, but taking into consideration that he was ill, that was in regards to Max as well. 303.5 DNF was not his fault, but his pace was just bad. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 3. Majority of you guys saying a 3 as well. All right. Anton Mackinnon, what is up, dude? On the stream. All right, next up we have got a Lance Stroll. What do you rate Lance's weekend out of 10? Poll is up. So Stroll in sprint qualifying, qualified at P19. He actually out-qualified his teammate by 7/10, but Alonso did have an issue with his rear wing, so it wasn't a fair comparison. Stroll qualified both Cadillacs. He did his job there, but it was 6/10 behind the Williams of Sainz. Yeah, it's kind of hard to judge because Alonso wasn't really competitive in this session. In the sprint, however, he managed to hold off Alonso and wasn't able to get past Albon and finished ahead of Sainz. So, yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Then in qualifying, he got out-qualified by his teammate by 2/10. He did out-qualify Behrman, though. But both of them getting out-qualified by the Williams boys, which I think is pretty disappointing. And then, in the race, he DNF'd on lap 45 due to a mechanical issue. Prior to that point, though, if I have a look through the highlights, he was just kind of running around at the back while his teammate was on an insane strategy. He wasn't really proving much. And then, yeah, later on, it retired from an issue. I don't know. It's always hard to rate these drivers in these poo teams, so I'm not really sure what to rate Stroll. In comparison to his teammate, though, I mean, first, sprint quali, uncompetitive, not a good comparison with Alonso being out. Sprint, he beat his teammate. Qualifying, got beaten by his teammate. And then in the race, was nowhere near his teammate. So, yeah, I don't think Stroll's had, like, a terrible weekend. It's kind of hard to tell. But, yeah, I think just lacked pace in the race. I mean, given his teammate finished in the points, I think I'm going to go 3.5 for Stroll. Just slightly better than Behrman, but still pretty underwhelming weekend from Stroll. But didn't really do anything wrong. But yeah, what do you guys think? 3-3-3. I didn't even notice Stroll DNF'd. 4, beaten by his teammate, but he did better than Behrman. Yeah, agreed. What do you think about the World Cup? World Cup was amazing this year, man. I really hope they expand the teams even more in the next one. I like having more teams. All right, what are you guys saying? A 3. So we agree on that. Next up, last of the DNFers, we have got Esteban Ocon. What do you rate Ocon's weekend out of 10? So Ocon in sprint qualifying, out-qualified his teammate by 2/10, made it through to SQ2 and beat Alex Albon. I think he's actually done pretty good there. I don't think he could have done any better than that in sprint qualifying. Then in the sprint, he finished ahead of his teammate. Finished ahead of Alex Albon. Again, don't think he could have done any better than that. So well done to Ocon. Then in qualifying, he beat his teammate once again by 3/10. Beat both Williams and was only had Franco ahead of him. So did his job once again. And then in the race, unfortunately, DNFing due to a mechanical issue. But prior to that, oh, he was running around at the back. What happened? Did he get caught up in the mess? Maybe he got caught up in the mess off the race start. Not really sure what happened to Ocon. Looks like his pace was okay, though. Bam was out, so we don't really have him to compare. Yeah, look, Ocon was running ahead of the Williams boys. Not sure what happened to him on the restart because he was down, but was running ahead of the Williams boys in the position he should be in, and then retired. I don't know. I feel like he's actually had a pretty decent weekend. It's not a standout performance. I think if anything, Behrman was underwhelming, not Ocon outperforming. But Ocon's put the car where it should be in sprint quali, in the sprint, in quali, and then was in the position of a good position, like in a normal position for the Haas in the race prior to his retirement. So I don't know. I feel like that's a solid like 6.5, to be honest. I feel like it's a solid 6.5. Maybe a 7. I don't know. It's hard to rate the back market teams, to be honest. Maybe if we had Behrman to compare him to in the race, maybe it could be a 7, but we don't really have that. So yeah. Esteban need to sack Stroll at the end of the season. He's been dreadful. Would be a 7 if he was anywhere near the midfield before DNF. Yeah. I'll go 6.5. I think it was like a good weekend for Ocon. So yeah. You guys are saying 5. I think that's way too low for Ocon. I know we don't like Ocon, but he's had a good weekend, man. He's had a good weekend. Then next up, we've got Bottas. Oh, there's another DNFer. Sorry. Pole is up for Bottas. So Bottas, kind of a hard one to rate, but in sprint quali, out-qualified his teammate by 1/10 and Alonso by 6/10 with those issues. And he's only 1/10 behind Stroll. So yeah, good sprint quali from Bottas. And then he also finished ahead of his teammate in the sprint. He also finished ahead of Sainz, but he did get overtaken by Alonso. Then in normal qualifying, he out-qualified Perez again by 3/10. And then in the race, he finished, he DNF'd. Towards the end. But where was he running before the DNF? Was he beating Perez? Yes, he was. He was beating Perez basically the whole race until the issues started to happen. So, yeah, I think, again, Bottas actually had a pretty solid weekend, similar to Ocon, so I'm probably going to go 6.5. Beat his teammate, beat his teammate, beat his teammate, was beating his teammate. Maybe a 6, maybe not as good as Ocon, or maybe we'll go a 6, but... yeah, again, it's just hard. When you've got a bum car, you can't really prove yourself. So you are sometimes limited. But yeah. Gracie B. Grace, welcome to the stream. So hard to rate Perez and Bottas. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's harsh to give him a 6 when he beat his teammate every session. Maybe that should be a 7. Should be a 7. Maybe it should be a 7. I don't know. I feel like maybe Ocon and Bottas should both be 7s. Like, you beat your teammate every session. That's your job. Yeah, come on, like, yeah, I think there's gotta be, you beat your team at every session. I think we've got to be kinder to these guys at the back. Okay, how about this? I'm giving Bottas a 6.5. And I'm giving Ocon a 7. No, I'm giving Bottas a 6.5 as well. Same as Ocon. We'll do that. Majority of you guys said 4. What? How are you giving Ponden a 4? He beat his team at every session, guys. I know he's got a bad car, but that's so harsh. What are we doing? Alright, next up, finally, away from the DNFers, we have got Alex Albon. What do you think? What do you rate Alex Albon's weekend? Gracie, thank you for the follow. I really do appreciate it. Such thing as Utopia. Why is my stream chopped right now? Okay. So Alex Albon in sprint qualifying, he out-qualified his teammate by 2/10 and he made it through to SQ2. He beat Ollie Behrman as well. So yeah, pretty solid from Albon. I didn't expect the Williams to be beating Haas this weekend, so he beat a Haas and he beat his teammate in that session. And then in the sprint, he finished ahead of his teammate. Don't know what happened to Sainz in the sprint. Does anyone actually know? But he did get overtaken by Behrman. But like I said, didn't expect the Williams to be beating the Haas. So I think he's finished where he should do. And then in normal qualifying, he's made it through to SQ2 once again, beating Ollie Behrman and beating his teammate just. But still, did beat him and made it through. Would have liked to have seen him contest Ocon, considering Ocon did an lap. But yeah. Then in the race, Albon managed to finish behind Sainz because Sainz took him out. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Albon was running ahead of Sainz basically the whole race. Let me just double check this. Yeah, was running ahead of Sainz. Running ahead of Sainz. Sainz got past him after the incident. Oh no, sorry. Albon went on a different strat. And then Albon went for the move. And then Sainz fucked it up and took him out. So, yeah, I think Albon's actually had a decent weekend. Made it into SQ2 in both qualifying. Into Q2 in both qualifyings. Beat his teammate in both qualifyings. Beat Behrman in both qualifyings. Race pace was better than Sainz. And he was actually doing okay. So, yeah, I think similar to the other guys, I think I'm going to give him a 6.5. Like, doing his job, beating his teammate. Boom. But at the same time, Maybe he should be high. No, I think 6.5 is fair. Sainz bombed his race. Yeah, Albon pretty good this weekend, ahead of his team in every session. Yeah, I think it's solid. I think it's solid. I think 6.5 makes sense. Majority of you guys send 6 as well. Nice. We're moving through these nicely. We're moving through these nicely right now. Oh, there's TikTok chat, but I can't read it for some reason. It's like, why can't I read it? It's like blending in. What the hell? Oh, there we go. Now I can see it. Luke, there with the wallet. Okay. Next up, we have got his teammate, Carlos Sainz. What do you rate his teammate out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. So, Carlos, in sprint quali, he got out-qualified by L1 by 2/10. He also got out-qualified by Ollie Behrman. Again, didn't expect the Williams to be beaten. I did expect the Williams to be beaten by the Haas, but L1 beat him, so why couldn't Sainz do that as well? Then, in the sprint, he dropped back. What happened to Sainz in the sprint? Why did he drop a lap down? Either way, finished behind Bottas, finished behind the Astons, finished behind his teammate and behind Behrman. Then, in qualifying, got out-qualified by his teammate again, only by a few milliseconds, but still, L1 made it through to SQ2. Carlos didn't. He did beat Ollie Behrman in this session, though. And then, in the race, lacked the pace on Albon. Was nowhere near, was not battling or with Albon the whole race. Then, when Albon goes for an overtake, Sainz cocks it up, gives him damage, almost takes him out of the race. Yeah, pretty poor weekend from Sainz. I think I'm going to give him a 3. Yeah, behind his teammate in every session. Took his teammate out. Also, actually, I think it's a 2.5. I think it's 2.5. Was poor in the sprint. It was poor in the race as well. And had an incident. Maybe it's a 2, bro. Maybe it's a 2. Did you think Argentina cheated to go to the final? I don't know, Lost Boy. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. He put in sprint for some reason. Don't remember why. Right. Okay, maybe it's 2.5 then. Maybe it's 2.5. Yeah, worse than Ollie for sure. Worse than Ollie for sure. All right, majority of you guys said a 3. Close to my rating. Close to my rating. Also, yeah, ratings are so bad this year with some of these teams. Moving on, we've got Sergio Perez. What do you rate Sergio Perez this weekend out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. Gabriel Faiscard, welcome to the stream. So Sergio, of course, good jokes comes out of the woodworks for Perez, bro. So Sergio in sprint qualifying, got out-qualified by his teammate by 1/10. He did out-qualify Alonso, who had the issues though. Then in the sprint, he finished 3 laps down, so behind Bottas. And then in qualifying, he got out-qualified by his teammate by 3/10. And then in the race, he actually did okay in the race. He finished ahead of Sainz and Albon. Obviously, Sainz giving Albon damage and then Sainz getting damage himself. So, yeah. Wait, when did the contact happen between these two? Wait, did they not put in the highlights? Those two touching each other. Was it right at the end? Oh, it was right at the end. Oh no, they're running ahead of Perez. So yeah, Sainz allowed Perez to get ahead of them. Yeah. So, anyways, he was slower than his teammate in every session, finished behind his teammate in every session other than the race where Bottas retired at no fault of his own. So yeah, pretty poor weekend from Perez, but he didn't really do anything wrong, to be honest. Yeah, didn't really do anything wrong, and he wasn't too far off his teammate. Unlike L1, unlike Sainz, he wasn't too far off his teammate, so I feel like a 4 makes sense. Get beaten in your session, in every session by your teammate, but didn't do bad. I feel like it's a 4 or 4.5. What do you guys think? Gaming Gustav and Thank you for the follows, guys. Kimi Supremacy, you reckon? No higher than 2. He got beaten by Bottas whole weekend, although he has been a better driver this season. What he did was complete the race, all below DNF. I go 4.5 for a solid race. Solid race, though? I mean, his teammate retired. He was behind his teammate. Nah, I'm going 4. I'm going 4. But he wasn't... Yeah, nah, 4. You're behind your teammate in every session. You got to lock in, bro. Majority of you guys saying 4 or 5. Okay, okay. All right, we get to a few complicated ratings now. We move on to Colapinto. Poll is up for Colapinto. So, Franco, in sprint qualifying, got out-qualified by his teammate by 5/10. He also got out-qualified by Yuki, who's first ever qualifying on these regular cars. Liam, first qualifying on these regular cars. Arvid, who's expected to beat him. And then Bortoletto as well, who's expected to beat him. However, Gasly out-qualified Bortoletto and Arvid. So he basically got out-qualified by 5 people he shouldn't have, including his teammate. It was way off the pace. He did out-qualify Hulkenberg, though, but that was about it. Then, in the sprint, he managed to move up 1 position on Yuki, but still finished behind Liam, still finished behind Arvid, still finished by Bortoletto by 12 seconds behind his teammate. So, yeah, again, not bad, but nowhere near his teammate. Then, in normal qualifying, he did the same thing. He got out-qualified by his teammate by 2 tenths. He got out-qualified by Hulkenberg this time, and Yuki, Arvid, and Bortoletto. Arvid and Bortoletto makes sense, but I think he should have been ahead of Hulkenberg, given Hulkenberg's lap time, and ahead of Yuki, given Yuki's lap time, and closer to his teammate. Then, in the race, he got 2 penalties. I can't remember what the penalties were for now. One was for a yellow flag infringement. The other one was for... I can't remember. What was the other one for? He got 2 penalties. Again, this guy gets so many penalties. He managed to, and then he managed to finish the race in 14th, ahead of the Williams boys who took each other out in a Cadillac. So he basically finished last. He got beaten by Bortoletto, who fucking spun on the first lap. He finished behind Arvid, who got a drive-through penalty. And he finished behind Yuki, who had his first race in Formula 1. And his teammate finished in 10th. He managed to finish, at the end of the race, he finished 21, 33, 38... Sorry, 33 seconds behind his teammate. So, yeah, pretty poor weekend from Colapinto overall. No crash, but a lot of penalties. Behind his teammate in every session by a convincing amount. Honestly, really disappointing weekend from Colapinto. I'm leaning towards a 3, to be honest. I'm leaning towards a 3. Maybe there's an argument to go lower because of the mistakes, but yeah. I don't know, bro. I don't know. That was a really poor weekend for Colapinto. What are you guys saying, though? This is a tough one. FYI, Franco didn't have the upgrades. Oh, that's interesting to know. Okay. I won't go lower than a 3 then. His pit strat was confusing. Colapinto does have upgrades, but got 2 drive-throughs. He did or didn't have upgrades? No, I'm confused. He didn't have the new Alpine package. Okay. What wasn't Gasly the only one with the upgrade package? Okay. Holy shit, I've never noticed he's getting penalties like every race. This is a tough one. Gasly had upgrades and Franco didn't. Hello? Did my stream just cut out? No? Okay, my TikTok just cut out. Drive-through was ridiculous. Weird pit strat. Yeah, what did he get a drive-through for? Was it the same reason as Arvid? Because I'm going to defend Arvid later on for the drive-through. So if he got a drive-through for the same reason as Arvid, then yeah. Yes? Okay, before we get to that, I want to have a look at these incidents. Because I'm going to defend Arvid for it later, so we may as well look at it for Colapinto while we're at it. Let me get it up on my driver cam real quick. Well, it was really wet. Okay, here we go. So, Colapinto apparently got a yellow flag. Got a drive-through for this. So let's have a look at it real quick. So he's coming to the banking. Well, he's flying. Yellow flag comes out. There's a crash. They're avoiding the crash, and then he overtakes Arvid. Okay. You could argue he sees the crash here. Maybe you could argue it was blocked. He sees the crash. There's a yellow flag here. I actually think this is a fair pen. There's a crash. There's a yellow flag. Oh, that's Yuki. Sorry. Doesn't matter. And then he flies past and gets an overtake done. I guess the argument could be you want to carry the speed to not check up everyone behind, but he didn't readjust the position and then kept the position. It's a fair pen. It's unlucky. Don't be wrong. It's very unlucky. In a moment like this, you're not thinking about anything other than just getting through the incident safely. But he did overtake someone. I think this is a fair pen. So I am going to stick to my rating for that, unfortunately. Yeah, maybe you could argue a drive-through's harsh, but yeah. I think that's a fair pen. So yeah, I think it's a pretty poor weekend from Colapinto. Behind Gasly significantly in every session. Got a drive through. Got another penalty. What's the other penalty for? What was the other penalty for? I can't remember what the other penalty was for. He did have the upgrades, and honestly, in my opinion, all the drive-throughs were bullshit this race. I think Arvid's was bullshit. We'll look at that later when we get to Arvid. How long does it take for him to get the upgrades? Didn't Gasly get them a few races ago? True. He didn't fly past Yuki brakes, so he doesn't hit the stray wheel. Right. Yeah, but he still should have readjusted the position. Anyways, I'm giving Colapinto a 3. But yeah, I can see an argument for maybe higher. Majority of you guys saying a 4. All right, next up, we've got Gabriel Bortoleto. Again, another weird one to rate, just given his situation. So, Bortoleto in sprint qualifying did amazing. He was right behind Gasly, almost best of the rest. He beat Arvid Lindblad by 2/10. He outqualified his teammate by 9/10. He also beat Liam Lawson. He beat Yuki. And he beat Franco. So, Gabby's actually done a really good job in sprint quali. And then in the sprint, he's managed to hold on to P9. Wasn't able to get past Gasly to get the point, but still, very solid sprint from Gabby, beating Arvid, beating Liam, beating Colapinto, beating Yuki. So, yeah, solid stuff from Gabby in the sprint portion of the weekend. Then we get to qualifying. Same again. Best of the rest, beating Arvid by 1/10. Out-qualifying Gasly, Yuki, Franco, and his teammate by 3/10. So, very solid up until this point. However, in the race, he's done the same thing as Max. Pushed too hard. Lost the car in the wet. Didn't take accountability for it, which is weird. But yeah, lost the car in the wet. Spun and then recovered. After the spin to, I don't know what position. Well, I guess we'll have a look after the race start. He recovered to... Yes, he was just at the back. He was way down on his teammate at this point, 7 positions lower. And then, honestly, his race pace just was kind of underwhelming after this. And then he ended up finishing the race 16, 17, 18, 28 seconds down on his teammate. So while his teammate's getting 4 points in P8, he's finishing 5 positions lower. 28 seconds down. So yeah, it's a bit of a hard one. I think the whole weekend it was really good, but just one mistake plus the lack of race pace just cost him a good result. So I guess that's I don't know. If I was to rate sprint quali, I'd give him a 9. Sprint, I'd give him a 9. Qualifying, I'd give him a 10. So he's already sitting at like a 9, 9.5 at this point. But then the race, the main session, spun, lost the car, had no race pace, was nowhere near his teammates. So, I don't know. What does that balance out to? Maybe like a 6? Maybe it's like you had an average weekend in the end because your main session was a fucking 2.5, 3. Hi, mate. Love from Portugal. Just want to say that in a post-race interview, Waller admitted the engineers had detected problems with the car before the race even started. Yeah, true. He did mention that. But he didn't take accountability for the spin, though. Pretty solid weekend, but points off for losing the car in the race, which should have been a points finish. I agree. Jonesy, name of the volley. I would have 6.5 because of the save. True. You could say 6.5 for save in the spin. 6 great weekend until that spin of the race. Until the race, it's a 9 or 9.5, but bung of the race was 6.5. Yeah, maybe it's a 6.5. At the end of the day, he continued. He didn't actually crash out. But then his race pace was just weak, man. Nah, he was 40 seconds off his teammate. But... we'll give him 0.5. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt that there was car issues. He did say there was car issues, so we'll go 6.5. Majority of you guys saying 6 for Gabby. I think I gotta agree. All right, we move on to another weird to rate driver because of the penalties. We've got Arvid Lindblad. What do you rate Arvid's weekend out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. So Arvid, in sprint qualifying, qualified P10. He made it through to SQ3. He beat Liam by 4/10. He beat Yuki by 4/10. I think 4/10 is what expected for Yuki, given his time in Formula 1 so far. Given it was his first time in these cars in F1. He also beat Franco, and he also beat Hulkenberg. However, in SQ3, he was 2/10 off of Bortoleto and Gasly. I think he could have done better there, but still, he made SQ3. Good job. I just would have liked to have seen him higher. And then in the sprint, he held position, finished ahead of Liam, finished behind Bortoleto and Gasly. So again, did an okay job, or did a good job there. And ahead of his teammate by 12 seconds. Then we get to main qualifying. He makes Q3. Again, only 1/10 off of Bortoleto. Out-qualifies Gasly this time. Out-qualifies his teammate by 1/10. I would have liked to have seen a bigger gap, but I think it's more props to Yuki than Arvid for that. Beating Hulkenberg, beating Colapinto. So again, really, really good job from Arvid in quali. And then in the race, honestly, I think one of Arvid's best races of the year. His race pace was phenomenal. The way he was defending was phenomenal. What he did to try get Yuki points was phenomenal. I thought he had an amazing race. The only problem was he got a drive-through penalty, which absolutely fucked up his race. Now, let's have a look at that drive-through, because I don't think he deserves a drive-through. I think it is a bit of a bullshit drive-through personally, so let's have a look. Maybe I'll change my mind, and I will lower his rating, but if I end up deeming this not worthy of a drive-through, then I'm going to give him his full rating that he deserves. So, here we go. So, this is Arvid coming into the last corner. So the Alpine twitches in front. We have Max crash, which he sees. We have the yellow flag come out. And obviously both Alpine guys, both these guys go round. They're side by side. He hasn't overtaken the Alpine. And then it's a green flag. So he overtakes Gasly. And he gets a pen for that. Look, I'm happy for you guys to believe otherwise, but the rule is when you see the green flag, once it's green flag, you can resume racing. And it's green. And he doesn't overtake until here. It's absolutely green at this point. I don't know. This is the thing. I asked this before the race started, actually. How does the green flags work? Is it based off of where you see it? Or is it based off of when you go past it? Because if it's based off of where you go past the green flag, then yes, he has overtaken Gasly just before the green flag. But most of the rulings are always done based off of if you see it. So if you see the green flag or if you see the marshal post. So he's ended up getting a drive-through for this. You know, again, it's a tough one because you naturally want to race Gasly, but at the same time, there's a crash. If you lift and do all this shit, other people are going to check up. I don't think he deserves a drive-through for this, personally. Like, it's green, man. It's literally green. I don't know. I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts, though. This could have been his time to shine. 7 completely shoved by bullshit penalty. 8 penalty was shit. I go with 8. Good weekend. Run by the stewards. Green flag in front. You have to go past the panel. You have to go past the panel? Is it enough to see it, or do you have to go through it? The rule states when past the light panel, you can go back to racing. Okay. So in that case, it is a drive-through. But my question is, why when you're racing someone, is it based off of going past the panel? But when it's referring to lifting and qualifying, it's when you see the panel. You know what I mean? So, like, in Austria, Russell sees the green panel, goes past the crash, and then he lifts. He's not past the panel yet, though. But he gets back on the throttle. But then, when it comes to racing, it's having to go past the panel. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's so, like, whack. I thought you were simply allowed to trust the lights on the wheel. Past, I think. Can you see it from the yellow sector? So, it has to be past, right? Okay. Well, in that case, performance-wise, he's had an amazing weekend. But he has gotten a penalty deserved, even if it is really, really harsh and really, not really harsh, quite harsh and really unlucky or, like, understandable to have done what he did in that situation. Yeah, I would have probably given him, like, a 9 this weekend if he had finished in the points. So I think maybe we knock 1 or 1.5 off of the rating for that. So I don't know, I feel like it's an 8, man. I feel like it's an 8, honestly. Like, I again, my ratings are based on performance. Yes, he unfortunately got a penalty, which threw away the result, but I still think performance wise he was very, very solid this weekend. I still disagree with the pen, but yeah, I guess it is the rules. I understand your confusion, but I've asked RUI, our race director, and that's what you told me. Right, okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with an 8. I think this could have been a much higher weekend, but yeah, we'll knock off 1 for the pen. But performance-wise, he really proved himself even after the pen, and gave Yuki the best chance of getting points. Majority of you guys saying a 7. Yeah, I don't mind a 7 or an 8, to be honest. I don't mind a 7 or an 8. All right. Next up, we've got just on the edge of points, we've got Yuki Tsunoda. Get your votes in. What do you rate Yuki's weekend out of 10? His first weekend in these regulation cars. His first time driving a non-Honda engine. So, in sprint qualifying, he qualified P12. He was 4 tenths off of Arvid. Was only milliseconds behind Liam. Given VCARB standards, he got out-qualified by Borleto and Gasly, but he did out-qualify Colapinto and Hulkenberg. So I actually think he's done a really good job here. I'm not going to lie. Milliseconds off of Liam, 4 tenths off of Arvid. I think that's pretty solid, given his circumstances. And then, obviously we don't take bias into account of like it's his first race. We just rate the performance solely. So his rating would be a lot higher. But anyways, in the sprint, he did lose a position of Franco, which was disappointing. And he finished 12 seconds behind his teammate, and a bit behind Liam. But other than that, again, finished the race, did okay for his first race. It was average, I guess. It was average. Then in qualifying, was only a 10th off of Arvid. He did miss out on Q3, but only by a 10th. And he was a milliseconds from beating Gasly. And again, he out-qualified Hulkenberg and he out-qualified Colapinto. I think that's a really good qualifying from Yuki. I was really, really surprised. Then, in the race, he finished just on the verge of points. He's finished behind Hulkenberg, Alonso, and Gasly. But he's finished ahead of his teammate. Obviously, his teammate getting a pen. He didn't get that pen. He finished 12 seconds ahead of his teammate as well. But how did he finish behind Alonso and Hulkenberg? That's my question. Was it after the restart? I guess just a weaker strategy than Alonso. Because he's ahead of Alonso here. But he was right behind Hulk. So Alonso and Hulk just do crazy crack strategies. Is that what's happened? Hulk was already ahead and Alonso did a one stop, right? Yeah, but how did he finish that much time? How did he finish 14 seconds behind Hulk? And how did Gasly get past him? I guess it was just weaker race pace. Yeah, look, if I was to rate Yuki's weekend based off of the context of his first time in Formula 1, sorry, in these regular cars, his first weekend, sprint weekend, I would probably give him an 8.5 or a 9. I think he's done really, really well. I'm not going to lie. I think it's like a 9 based off of the context. But given the way I do my ratings, I don't take into account if they're a rookie or it's their first weekend in Formula 1. I solely rate the performance. And I think performance-wise, it's still a high rating. I think it's like a 7.5. Yeah, like, you know, 4 tenths off his teammate. Was close to beating Liam. Kind of was close to making Q3. And then sprint was not amazing. Qualifying was good. The race was good. I guess the way you got to look at it is like, if this was Liam, what would this result for VCARB be? It'd probably be a 6 actually. So we already are bumping it up a little bit. VCARB gave him used softs rather than using the new mediums. Yeah, that's where. Yeah, I think I'll go 7.5 for Yuki. Again, take his face away. Take away the fact that it was first race. I think it was like probably like a 6 performance. So we're bumping that rating up a little bit. But again, given the context, I think this is like an 8.5 or a 9 for Yuki, honestly. I can't see how he could have done too much better in his first race in the new regs. So, yeah. Maybe I do just give him a 9 then. Maybe I do just give him a 9. I don't know. It's hard, man. It's hard when you do performance ratings. Because I don't want to take into a bias into account of like, oh, they're a rookie. Or like expectations, you know what I mean? I'm just rating solely the performance. Yeah, I'll keep it 7.5. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Majority of you guys saying 8 or 9, yeah. Yeah, I think we're 7.5. Context, it's a 9 though. Majority of you guys saying a 9. Yep, so we agree in that sense. Alright, we move on to the top 10 now. We've got Pierre Gasly. What do you rate Gasly's weekend out of 10? I'm going to quickly just grab a snack before we move on to the top 10. Get your votes in on the poll. If you watch on YouTube right now, come join us on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Ponden. That's where you guys can vote in chat. We got a cookie, guys. We got a cookie. Crumbs everywhere. Actually, what was the other thing I wanted to check on F1 TV? Oh! I know something we can look at while I eat this cookie. Bortoletto's illegal start that didn't get investigated. And I've not seen anyone on Twitter talk about.
Race control.
Shut up. Look at this. Look at this. Look at his tires. Look at his tires. Watch his tires. Ready? Now. Now. Rolling. And then the lights go out. How was that not investigated? Put down Twitter for 3 likes. Look, he starts rolling here. The lights are still not out. Rolling, 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 and then they go out. Maybe it's... Did he stop? Is it because he maybe stopped? Right, let me look at that go. No, he's not. He's rolling. He's rolling. I might put that on Twitter for some 3 likes, man. I can't lie. I think the rule is no moving from the 4th light, but he was still rolling when the lights went out. I mean, the rolling to shit start, yeah. Anyways, moving on to Pierre. Pierre, in sprint qualifying, best of the rest. Wait, now my mouth's fucked up. No. See, that's the thing. Maybe the movement wasn't sensed, meaning it was insignificant. That's not how it works. Rules are rules, and it says you shouldn't be rolling when the lights go out. Anyways, moving on to Pierre. Pierre, sprint qualifying. Qualified P8, best of rest, 4/10 off of Lewis in front. Doesn't matter. Out-qualified Bortoletto, out-qualified Arvid, out-qualified Liam, out-qualified Yuki, and out-qualified his teammate by 5/10. Oh, sorry, 6/10. 7/10. And Nico Hulkenberg as well. So very good stuff from Gasly. And then in the sprint, got their final point, beating all those same guys, to finish behind Lewis. So amazing. Amazing job from Gasly in sprint quality and sprint. It was solid 10. Then in qualifying, he qualified P11. So he didn't make Q3 this time. He was 1/10 off of Arvid, 2/10 off of Bortoletto. He was 2/10 ahead of his teammate. He beat Yuki, he beat Hulkenberg. Still very solid qualifying from Gasly. And then in the race, he finished P10. Now, he did finish behind Alonso and Hulkenberg, so I would have liked to have seen him do better. But he beat Yuki, he beat Arvid, he beat Bortoletto, he beat his teammate by 22, 27-ish, 28 seconds. So, yeah, I think Gasly's done a good job. I would have, again, think he should have beaten Alonso and Hulkenberg. What happened to Gasly? Why didn't he beat Hulkenberg and Alonso? Was it just different strategy? Did you get penalized for jumping the start no matter who you are? I agree. 7. While he did get points, he had some poor racecraft moments during the race, which allowed the likes of Alonso. That is actually true. That is actually a very good point. He did lose that position going for that move on, I think it was Yuki. Lost the position and then lost another position at Hulkenberg. So, yeah, probably could have had a better race. But still, I think Gasly's had a really solid weekend. But I think he could have gotten even better than this. So I'm thinking like an 8.5. What are you guys saying? Majority of you guys saying a 7 or an 8. Okay, okay. I still think it should be higher than that. Like sprint, quality, sprint, and quali. Well, sprint, quality, and sprint were amazing. And then quality was decent, and then the race was a decent result. I reckon 5 makes sense. Guys, he had like 2 to 3 laps where he forgot to race and lost positions. Yeah. Maybe an 8 then. Is 8, maybe 8.5 is too high. Let's go 8. I'm changing it to an 8 because you guys are right. He probably should have done better than Hulkenberg and Alonso, given the situation. So, you're right. You're right. All right, we move on to Alonso. What do you rate Alonso's weekend out of 10? So, Alonso in sprint qualifying. He had an issue with his car, so he got out-qualified by everyone. However, in the sprint, he got past the Cadillacs and then finished behind his teammate. Not great to finish behind his teammate, given it's Stroll, but it wasn't terrible. Given he had a car issue and had to make his way up in the sprint. And then, in normal qualifying, he out-qualified Stroll by 2/10. He also out-qualified Behrman, was a 10th behind the Williams boys. Again, I think given where the Aston Martin is at the moment, he probably could have made Q2 ahead of the Williams and the Haas, but I don't know why he did it. However, in the race, absolutely insane race, man. Went so long on those soft tires, made the strategy work, and finished P9 behind Hulkenberg, ahead of Gasly, Yuki, Arvid, Bortoletto, Franco, and of course his teammate who DNF'd on lap 45, but still was ahead of his teammate basically the entire race. Absolutely insane result. Absolutely outstanding drive. I think if we're just looking at the race, it would be a 10. But obviously, take into account quali, sprint quali, and the sprint, I think we'll demote that down to a 9. Yeah, because obviously we were rating the whole weekend. It wasn't a perfect weekend, given he didn't get past Stroll in the sprint. Maybe could have done a little bit better in quali, and I mean, he had an issue in the sprint quali. But yeah, honestly, 0.5 for sprint, 0.5 for quali. I think he's had an amazing weekend, amazing result in the end. So yeah, 9 for Alonso. Heelbot, name of the follow. Amazing defending at the end too. He pulled off a 37-lap stint on hards. You mean softs? Carsey, what is up, dude? Welcome to the stream. He better not retire. Maybe the movement wasn't sensed. Oh, remember that. Majority of you guys sent a 10. Like, you can't give a 10. Surely you can't give a 10 to Alonso for his sprint and quali. But still, very solid weekend from Alonso, man. Seniority tax. True. All right, next up, best of the rest in the race. We've got Nico Hulkenberg. What do you rate Hulkenberg's weekend out of 10? Bit of a weird one, because in sprint quali, he got out-qualified by Bortoletto by 9/10. He got out-qualified by Franco, by Yuki, by Liam, by Arvid, and by Gasly. Yeah, it was just way off in sprint quali. And then in the sprint, he DNF'd. What happened to him? Was it a mechanical issue? I think it was a mechanical issue, right? Yeah, mechanical issue. So didn't really get to see him in the sprint. And then same again in qualifying, man. 3/10 off of Bortoletto, getting out-qualified by Yuki, Gasly, Lindblad. He did beat Franco in sprint qualifying by 3 milliseconds, and that was it. However, in the race, made it work. Great avoidance of Bortoletto. Had much better race pace than Bortoletto, albeit it was Bortoletto having some car issues. And yeah, finished best of the rest. Beat Alonso, beat Gasly, beat Yuki, Arvid, his teammate. Franco didn't get any of those pens that everyone else got. Very, very solid result in the end. So, yeah, if we say it's a 10 for the race, which it basically was because it was an insane race from Nico. Actually, I'll take that back. I don't think it was a 10 for Hulkenberg in the race. I don't think it was as good of a race as... Okay, put it this way. I don't think it was as good of a race as Alonso, because Alonso had a worse car and finished 10 seconds behind Hulkenberg. Given Hulkenberg's teammate was basically out of the race, Arvid had a drive-through, Franco had a drive-through. He didn't really have much competition other than Gasly, really. But he dicked on Gasly. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it was as good of a race as Alonso, but it was still very solid to finish best of the rest. But we gotta take into account how bad his sprint quali was and how poor his qualifying was. Like, he was nowhere near his teammate. He's getting beaten by all these guys. You know, lucked out a little bit in the race. So, yeah, I don't think it was as good of a weekend as Alonso, but, so I'm gonna give him 8.5. I think that's fair. Why does it keep saying my stream's disconnecting, bro? What is happening to TikTok? Yo, we still live on TikTok? Yo, TikTok. I don't know why I keep saying I'm disconnecting on TikTok, but nothing else. 10 for the save and the beautiful overtaking. Yeah, I'm going to go 8.5. Again, very solid race, but we're knocking 1.5 off for the rest of the weekend. That was pretty poor. Wolfie Hart, what's up, dude? Weren't quality supposed to be at Hulk's upper hand? TikTok is washed. Yeah, it is. All right, majority of you guys saying 8. Am I being too kind and giving him an 8.5, given how the rest of his weekend went and the fact that he lucked out a little bit in the race? Like, it's not that he was driving an Aston. He was driving an Audi. He basically finished where Bortoletto... Nah. I'm knocking it down to an 8, and I'll tell you why. Bortoletto qualified P9. Right? Bortoletto showed over the weekend that Audi was P9. Bortoletto put it 9th in sprint quali, 9th in the sprint, 9th in quali. Right? Hulkenberg's then driven past Arvid with a drive-through, his teammate who's spun, Yuki who's doing his first race. The only person he's really beat is Fernando and finished in P8. And we're sitting here going, insane drive. When the only reason it's an insane drive is because he qualified bad. So really, he's just put the car in the position that the car should have been in, given the circumstances. So yeah, I don't think it's a 10. I think at the end of the day, he's beaten Gasly, and really that's about it. Everyone else was kind of impeded by penalties or the crash or whatever. Still, I'm not saying it was a bad weekend for Hulkenberg. I'm just saying, like, this ain't Alonso levels of qualifying bad because that's the best the car could do and then driving it into the points. He basically finished where the Audi should have been. So, yeah, 8 for Hulk. I don't think I'm going to give him higher than that. But still, good race from Hulk. To have had a poor qualifying and redeem himself to a P8 is amazing. But I still think, like, the rest of the weekend, his performance was bad. And if these guys didn't have issues, like, I think Arvid would have beaten him. I think Bortoletto would have beaten him. So, yeah. Anyways, we move on to the big boys now. I'm just glad he finally did good for my fantasy. True. My boy Liam. Guys, what do we rate Liam? Again, not going to take into account that it was his first weekend at Red Bull. We'll talk about it, obviously. But as per usual with the second driver seat, we will talk about the second driver like they're just a normal driver. So, Liam, in sprint qualifying, had a bit of a disappointing one. He got out-qualified by 4/10 by Liam. Now, again, for Red Bull second seat standards, 4/10 off of Max is really solid. But again, for normal driver standards, 4/10 off your teammate. He got beaten by Arvid in the sister team. He got beaten by Bortoletto. He got beaten by Gasly. He did, however, beat Yuki. But again, Yuki, context, only first qualifying for in this regulation. He beat Franco. He beat Hulkenberg. So not a terrible qualifying, but not a great qualifying from Liam. Then in the sprint, he held position. He wasn't able to get past Arvid, Bortoletto, or Gasly. He finished 37 seconds behind his teammate. He did beat Franco and Yuki, though. And then in normal qualifying, amazing. Only 1/10 off of Max. Again, for the second Red Bull driver seat standard, to only be 1/10 off of Max is amazing. Very, very solid qualifying. In normal driver context, 1/10 off your teammate isn't bad. He put the car where it should be. This Red Bull was not good this weekend. I spoke about it with Max, but Max was putting the car where it should be, and Liam was right there. So it was a good qualifying, even though he was a 10th behind his teammate. He beat Bortoletto. Well, these guys are irrelevant. He should be beating these guys, but he beat Bortoletto and Arvid. So solid, very solid qualifying from Liam. Then, in the race, he put a fight up to Max, which was really good to see. You know, maybe a bit risky. Probably shouldn't have done that. But again, he did it. It didn't turn out bad. And then maneuvered Max's crash well. Held on to P7. Now, obviously the race pace slacked, right? But I think there's two reasons for that. Or three reasons for that. One, the Red Bull just wasn't good this weekend. It was not on par of the other three teams. Two, It's Liam's first time in Red Bull Racing. I don't think he's really pushing to the max. I think his goal was to finish the race in P7. He did exactly that. And 3, we know the Red Bull second seat lacks pace anyway. So I think he's done about the same. Maybe if not better than Hedger would have done. Like, I think Hedger's been sitting around the 2 to 3 tenths mark behind Max, and Liam was 1/10 in normal quali. And I think his race pace was about the same. So yeah, I think Liam's done a really good job given the context of his first race for Red Bull Racing. Again, I don't try to look at like the bias of anything like that. So just rating his performance as a driver relative to his teammate. Yeah, it's a bit of a hard one to rate. I think Red Bull Racing second driver seat standards, it being your first weekend for Red Bull Racing, I think I'd give Liam a 9. I think I'd give Liam a 9. We don't have Max to compare him to. But rating his performance, I'm probably going to say sprint quality and sprint wasn't amazing. Qualifying was decent. The race was decent. Yeah, I feel like maybe a 7. I don't know. I gave Yuki a 7.5, and I feel like Liam maybe did better than Yuki. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like I'm always too biased when it comes to Liam. Galactic King, Jack Tom, bottom of the string, guys. 6 for sprint, 8 for race, so a 7 average. I think maybe lower for the sprint. I'd say like a 5 for the sprint. Maybe an 8.5 for the race. Liam definitely did better than Yuki, I think. 8 is way too high, folks. He did what he had to do, yeah. Again, if we're talking context of Red Bull, if we're talking rating for the weekend, context of second Red Bull driver, this is a 9 weekend. 100%. But if we're just looking at performance, I mean, quali was only a 10th off Max. Race, he finished, put the car where it should be, which is P7. He got the job done. He had a Piastri weekend. You know what I mean? He's had a 2026 Piastri weekend. Like, behind his teammate, but not too far off. And put the car where it should be. What have we been giving Piastri this weekend? I think we've been giving Piastri like 7. So I feel like a 7 is fair. Yeah. I think the reason Liam gets rated lower than Yuki is because of his sprint quali and sprint. We got to admit, the sprint quali was poor. Getting out-qualified. Like, we can't deny the sprint quality was poor. He got out-qualified by Arvid, Bortoletto, and Gasly. And Yuki was right there. And then in the sprint, he didn't move up any positions in a Red Bull. So, yeah, I feel like 7 is completely fair. But again, Red Bull second seat context. Amazing weekend. I would love to see Liam have another opportunity at Monza. And maybe even Madrid as well. Wait, what did you guys vote? I didn't even see the majority. I clicked off it too quick. I think it was way better than Piastri this weekend. Well, Liam, while in a different car, at least his experience with the 2026 cars, unlike Yuki. Yeah, true. That's another thing. That's probably why Yuki got a little bit more of a bump, because it was his first time. All right, we move on to Piastri. What do you rate Piastri's weekend out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. So, Piastri in sprint qualifying, qualified P4, only 60 milliseconds behind his teammate. Again, was weaker than his teammate, but still, I think, kind of put the car where it should be. Like, maybe he should have been in Leclerc, but yeah, he beat Antonelli, he beat Lewis. Yeah, just kind of, 1/10 off a pole. I think it was decent for Piastri. He just wasn't better than the other guys. And then in the sprint, he lost a position to Kimi. I would have liked to have seen him hang on to that, considering Lando was able to. But both McLarens lost a position. So, yeah, excuse me. He finished 5 seconds behind his teammate. Still beat Max, though. Still beat Lewis, though. So, again, not bad. Not bad. Then, in qualifying, he qualified P4. 2/10 off of his teammate, who was on pole, behind Kimi and Russell. Again, would have liked to have seen him closer to Lando. But I think it's not a bad quali. He beat Lewis. He beat Leclerc. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of okay. It was decent. It was decent. And then in the race, he's lost 2 positions to the Ferrari boys, while his teammate has won the race. He's finished 32 seconds behind Lando. Now, a bit of an interesting strat from McLaren, but overall, I think Piastri's race pace was just really, really weak. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give Piastri maybe like a 6 or maybe like a 5.5. Like, this was a bang on average weekend. Like, behind your teammate by a 10th, so not bad, and putting the car where it should be, which is like fighting for pole. Cool. And he beat Kimi. Finished in P5 while his teammate's just a few seconds up the road. Qualified P4, but his teammate's on pole. Like, but again, it's only 1/10 off. I think 5.5 is completely fair. Like, he didn't have a bad weekend. He wasn't way off of Lando in the first 3 sessions. To be fair, in the race he was. But he wasn't way off of Lando in the other 3 sessions. He still beat the people he should be beating. Maybe not the Ferraris in this sense, but I don't know. If we look at the other... Okay, put it this way. If we look at the other sessions, the first 3 sessions of the weekend, he was just slightly off of Lando, and he beat the people he should be beating, for the most part. Or some people he should be beating. The race, yeah, he finished last of the big boys, other than Liam. Nowhere near his teammate. Maybe it's a bang on 5, man. Maybe it's a bang on 5. Like, it wasn't bad, but it was just average, bro. Maybe it is a 5. I think that's the most average we can have. He has made a step up at qualies, but his race pace is nowhere near. 5/10 off Lando in the race. Had a pit early as he couldn't meet the target lap. No pace whatsoever. It's just disappointing from Oscar. He's getting better over 1 lap again, but the race just disappointment after disappointment. Yeah, Time messed up with the pit strategy, but his pace was nowhere. I mean, that's the thing. We can sit here and be like, oh, they pit him and made a mistake, and he came out behind Russell, but he finished 20 seconds behind Russell. He was complaining on his second hard stint that his fronts were going off 5 laps, so that's just bad performance. Cap Briefs above the stream, dude. 110 at Zandvoort was quite a lot, though, right? Yeah, true. He had a slow pit, but his race pace was absolutely horrid. His quality pace has improved a lot, but his race pace was just bad. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick to a 5. It's as bang average as you can get. Like, he beat some people, like Max or, like, the Ferraris in some sessions. He wasn't, like, way off, but it was still just not great when your teammates are winning and stuff like that. So, I'm going 5. I agree with you guys. You guys also give him a 5. Why not believe in me? All right. Next up, we've got Charles. What do you rate Charles out of 10? I might sit down for these last few. Rest my feet and back. I might get a piece of carpet, actually, for below my desk. Oh, no, I can't, though, because I got my chair. All right, let's talk about Charles. So, Charles, in sprint qualifying, qualified P3, actually really solid. Only a few milliseconds off of pole. He beat Oscar Piastri, he beat Kimi Antonelli, he beat Max Verstappen, and he beat his teammate by 5/10. Yeah, I didn't expect him to beat Lando or Russell. He already did a good job in beating Piastri and Antonelli. So, yeah, I think Charles, really good sprint quali. And then in the sprint, managed to move past Lando. Now, obviously, Lando's race pace fell off. Or tires fell off. And he only finished 1.3 seconds behind Russell. I think sprint quali and sprint for Charles is like a solid 9.5 out of 10. He did really, really well. However, in qualifying, he got out-qualified by his teammate by 1/10. Was 4/10 off of Lando. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he beat Max, he beat Liam, so he's done his job there, but didn't beat his teammate. And yeah, given how good he was in sprint quali and sprint, it should have been higher. Then, in the sprint, I thought his pace wasn't too bad. He only finished 1 second behind Lewis, or had a little dive of Lewis at the end there. But it was weaker pace than Lewis at the end of the day. In the end, he did beat Piastri, so, you know, it wasn't like a terrible weekend, and he was close to Lewis, but Lewis and Russell. But yeah, like, you know, obviously this lack of pace meant he didn't get past Lewis, and he also wasn't able to get past Russell at the end of the race. Only finishing 17 seconds off of the lead, given, again, the situation he was in. I don't think it's too bad. But, yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, we spoke about it during the review part of the stream. I don't think Charles not moving out of the way for Lewis was... I think it was more of a communication issue from Ferrari and bad from Ferrari than Leclerc. Leclerc was told, hey, we need you to box because of this, and he didn't. Fair enough. But I don't think he was really told why the box needed to happen. So I don't blame Leclerc for that. Oh, I don't know what to rate him. Like, again, sprint quality and sprint was really good. Qualifying wasn't bad. It was just average, so like a 6. And then the race was also like a 6. So, I don't know. Does that balance out to a 7? I don't know. What are you guys saying? You guys are saying 7? Okay, so 7's not weird then. I think it's probably a 7. maybe 7.5. Good weekend at the start, but average race. Was great up until the sprint part of the weekend. After that, just fell off really. Good sprint, bad main quality. Race was going great until pit fiasco. How was Leclerc supposed to know to let Lewis race? I mean, it's a communication error. To be honest, he might have been faster with Lewis than Lewis because Lewis got an easy pit stop with the safety car. True. Maybe it is a 7.5. 7.5 is pretty much level with Lewis in quality and race, but way better in the sprint. Yeah. Yeah, I think I could agree with you, actually. I think it is a 7.5. I think the hate for Leclerc for not letting him through is what's getting into me. Yeah. What do you guys say? People that call them... Oh, rid of that. W content. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, what do you guys rate, man? What do you guys think? 7.5 too high? I don't know. I think you guys are right. I think you've changed my mind. I think he actually did have the same, if not better, race pace than Lewis, but just didn't get the VSC. And then at the end of the day, he finished right on the back of Lewis. So... yeah, I think 7.5 is fair. I did expect to rate Leclerc that high coming in a rating, so I think that's why I'm a bit, like, skeptical. All right, final driver to not make it on the podium, Lewis. What do you rate Lewis out of 10? Get your votes in on the poll. Yeah. So, Lewis, in sprint qualifying, had a bit of a stinker. He got out-qualified by his teammate by 5/10. He also got out-qualified by Max, who he should not have been getting out-qualified by. Yeah, so P7, disappointing for Lewis. And then in the sprint, he couldn't get past Max. Again, shouldn't be finishing ahead of behind Max, given that Red Bull this weekend. Only finished 2 seconds off of Max and Piastri, though, which isn't too bad, but 11 seconds behind his teammates. So yeah, honestly, sprint qualifying and sprint was really bad. Like, if I was rating the sprint quali and the sprint as a race and a quali, it would probably be like a 4, bro. It was, yeah, it was like Piastri level of bad. But, I mean, even Piastri did better than that, to be honest, in quali and the race. Yeah, honestly, it was bad. Anyways, then moving on to normal quali. He did out-qualify Charles this time by 1/10. And he out-qualified by Max by 2/10. However, both Ferrari boys were 2/10 down on the McLaren. I think that's probably where the Ferrari should have been in quali. 5-6. Cool. Lewis did his job. Out-qualified Charles. Actually a decent quali. And then in the race, he's managed to finish P4. However, I do think he was saved a little bit by the VSC. Hence why he finished ahead of Charles. But then again, I do think he was fucked over a little bit by Charles because the team didn't prioritize his pit and then he got stuck and blah, blah, blah. But I do think they were probably similar on pace. I was a little bit disappointed that Lewis didn't get past Russell. I think Russell had much worse tires and I think Lewis should have gotten past. But then at the same time, it's hard to overtake track. The VSC came out and stopped him from having a chance. Again, Charles's moment stopped Lewis. So, yeah, I think overall he's actually probably had a worse weekend than Charles. I don't know. I feel like if we gave Leclerc a 7.5, I feel like Lewis has to be a 7. Like that sprint quali and sprint is so bad, bro. But quali was better and race pace was about the same. So, I don't know. Maybe 7 balances it out. I don't know. What do you guys think? Minus points for the sprint. When Charles is qualifying 3rd and finishing 2nd, being P7 is not good. If Charles is 7.5, then Lewis is 6.5. Sprint was horrible. His race was okay, but not a OMG wow. Lewis got old soft tires on the last pit stop. Yeah, true. His race was an alright one. To be honest, they had like the same level weekends. I disagree on the same level weekends. I think Lewis was slightly better than Charles in quali. And they were basically bang on in the race. I would say, like, depending on the stint. I think Lewis should have got past Charles at the end. Russell at the end, but I think Leclerc would have beaten Lewis. But then Lewis also got affected by Charles, so I feel like they were even. But I think Lewis was so bad in sprint quali and sprint, man. So again, I think that balances out to like, I don't know, 0.5 lower or 1 point lower than Charles. I'm thinking either 6.5 or yeah. The song's a tune. Sorry, I just saw my phone go off. I thought it was something important. I don't know, man. I think 6.5 is fair, but I think I'm scared to give it 6.5 because Fabio's gonna come eat me alive, bro. He's gonna come eat my ass. He's gonna slap it. He finished behind a Red Bull in a sprint. 6.5 is fair. They changed the car parts. I think 7 is fair. He did have a little bit of damage, actually. He did have a little bit of damage, didn't he? I just think that sprint quality and sprint was so bad. We'll go 7. Majority gets 7 as well. The race is usually the more important, significant event, yeah. But again, he was like on par with Charles. So, no, I mean he didn't practice with the new floor, right? Charles was 7, Lewis 6.5. No, Leclerc was 7.5. Did Charles 7.5? Did I give Charles 7.5 or 7? No, I gave Charles 7.5, yeah, so 7 for Lewis. All right. Oh, that was loud. We move on to the top 3. Giras. What do you rate George Russell out of 10? Get votes in. So, George qualified pole in sprint qualifying. Amazing stuff. He was a 10th up on Lando, Charles, Oscar, and 2 tenths up on his teammate, and obviously Lewis as well. Yeah, amazing. Great work in the sprint quality. And then same in the sprint. Did a good enough job to hold off Charles, who looked really quick and finished 5 seconds ahead of his teammates. So, honestly, 9.5. Nothing crazy, but... Oh, no, it's perfect. Sprint quality and sprint was perfect. 10. 10 for that pole from the weekend. Then, in qualifying, it wasn't even too bad. He was only a 10th off of Lando. Again, I would have liked to have seen the Mercedes boys challenge Lando for pole. And be closer, I should say. But, yeah. Only a 10th off, beat his teammate, beat Piastri. I think he's had a solid qualifying. So at this point, he's running at like a 9.5 weekend, bruh. However, in the race, what actually happened? Lost the position off the start. Yeah, got overtaken by Antonelli off the start, so that was weak. And then his race pace was weaker than Antonelli the whole race. I will give him props for hanging on to the end there, but yeah. It was 9.5 up until the race. The race lost the position to Antonelli, had worse race pace, finished 4 seconds behind Antonelli, which isn't too bad when you think about it. But yeah, held off the Ferraris. Yeah, I'm thinking like an 8.5 to be honest. I think it's an 8.5. I think we knock off 1 for the race start, losing to your teammate, and the race pace. But I still think it was a solid weekend for Russell. Yeah, maybe we should knock off more, you know? Like, at the end of the day, losing a position to your teammate off the start and then also having worse race pace, I think that's maybe more. I don't know, maybe an 8. Maybe it is an 8. He had a horrible start. Pretty poor race pace, bang average rate. Yeah, I think 8's fair. I think if we got to be harsh. Like, you're at it. I said this at Hungary for someone. I can't remember who it was now. I think it was Lando. It is a hard to overtake track. You can't be losing positions off the start. That's the most important part of the weekend. You know what I mean? It's the most important part of the weekend. So yeah, we knocked that off. I think 8's fair. Solid weekend for Russell, but could be better. Maybe it'd be an 8.5 if he beat his teammate. But yeah, majority of you guys said 8 as well. Pick it up a little. Wait 1 sec. I've just lost my tab. Boom. 10 at GP run. I agree with the 8. Bro's getting ahead of himself. I remember he said something about not having battery for the race start. Oh yeah, he did. It did derate, didn't it? It did derate. But that's what. No, but he lost to Piastri with that derate, not Kimi. Swim was great, but felt like his race was poor race compared to Kimi. Yeah. All right, let's move on to his teammate, Kimi Antonelli. Poll is up, get your votes in. So, Kimi in sprint quali was actually quite disappointing. Was 2/10 off of his teammate. He was behind Piastri, behind Charles, behind Norris. So 2/10 off. He did beat Max though, which he should be doing, and Lewis. And then in the sprint, he got past Piastri, but wasn't able to get past Lando, who was struggling, and finished 5 seconds behind his teammate, including Charles Leclerc. So, yeah, pretty poor sprint quali, and sprint wasn't bad. It was maybe just a little bit. No, it was probably just average, to be honest, for Kimi. And then in quali, got out-qualified by his teammate by a few milliseconds and was a 10th off of Lando. I think both Mercedes drivers could have challenged Lando for pole a bit more. At the end of the day, Antonelli was right on his teammate, so it wasn't bad, but he did get beaten. And was behind. He did beat Piastri though, and to beat the Ferraris. So yeah, again, it wasn't bad. It was good. It was good. It was okay. It was right next to his teammate, which he needs to be doing. Then, in the race, got past Russell straight away, which is amazing. I think he got past Lando at one point as well. No, he got past Lando on the restart, didn't he? Yeah, got past Lando on the restart. Flew away. But then his race pace really fell off at the end of that race. Still managed to beat Russell and the Ferraris, but yeah, absolutely cooked his tires. Really, really bad final stint. So I think overall, I don't know. I think pretty similar weekend to Russell. I'm feeling like an 8. Like, I think the sprint quali and the sprint was much weaker than Russell. Same with the qualifying. I think the race he beat Russell, but it was more from the race start than race pace, I'd say. I mean, his race pace sucked on that final stint, bro. So yeah, I think him and Russell probably had the same weekend. I think, they did their job finishing 2-3, but I don't know, if they didn't lose positions off the start / their race pace was better, they probably could have been in the McLaren, but then again, they didn't do a bad job. I don't know. At the end of the day, you're in the fastest car on the grid, and yeah, they didn't maximize either the sprint portion of the weekend or the main part of the weekend. F1 Sushi, though, the follow. I think less than Russell, because Russell let him pass. He might have been able to hold Kimi back like he did Lewis. Kimi was worse at every session apart from the race, which is the most important. Yeah, so I feel like it balances out. Sprint was okay, but not great considering where George finished. His race was better. He had good moments, but dropped back a lot. He did have floor damage in the sprint quali, though. That was his own fault for going up the track. I didn't know that. Wait, we're talking about Antonelli now, aren't we? Oh. Yeah, I think it balances out. I think I'm going to give him the same rating as Russell. I think if his race pace wasn't poo at the end, and he finished P2, it's at 8.5. But his race pace was poo at the end, bro. It was, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go 8. Majority of you guys said 8 as well, which means it leaves the world champion, Mr. Lando Norris. What do you rate his weekend out of 10? Weekend! Remember, weekend. What do you rate Lando's weekend out of 10? So, in sprint quali, Lando qualified P2. He beat Charles. He beat his teammate by 1/10. Was milliseconds off of beating Russell. So, very solid work. Again, I think he had the potential to get pole position, but just wasn't able to do it. It wasn't bad. So, yeah, 9.5 for sprint quali. He was a 10th ahead of Antonelli as well. 2 tenths ahead of Antonelli as well. And also beat Max and Lewis. So, yeah, really solid sprint quali from Lando. Just the only thing he could have done was beaten Russell. Then in the sprint, however, he did lose a position to Charles. I don't know, we can sit here and say was that the McLaren problem was his fault. Either way, he learned from it, or the team learned from it for the race, but he did lose a position in the sprint, down to P3 on Charles, but he did beat Kimi and he did beat his teammate by 5 seconds. So again, not bad. It was actually a good sprint. It's just, yeah, when he should have probably been contesting Russell for the win, but instead finished 5 seconds down and was contested by Leclerc. Then qualifying, amazing qualifying. P1 by 1/10 over the Mercedes boys, 2/10 over Piastri. Very, very solid qualifying. However, in the race, he lost his position on the second race start to Kimi, and I was a bit worried, man. I really thought Kimi was going to run away off into the win, especially given his sprint pace. But Lando, really mature drive after that. Amazing race pace, and clawed it back, got past Kimi, and won the race by 11 seconds. So, yeah, very, very solid. It's definitely not a 10 weekend. Again, sprint quali could have beaten Russell. Sprint lost a position, and the race start, second race start, lost a position. But I do think those three things have been made up by his mature drive. So I think it's a 9. Something else I want to point out was in the race, he made multiple mistakes. He was following Kimi, got close, in overtake range, mistake. Got close, in overtake range, made a mistake. Again, just needs to tidy up those mistakes. The race start, those 2 mistakes when following Kimi. But overall, the race pace was there. It was a very mature drive after those mistakes and thought it for P1. I think other drivers might have made more mistakes or would have, got too much in their head, but Lando just kept it calm and ended up coming home with the dub. So yeah, very solid weekend. I think even if this was not a sprint weekend and we were just rating quali in the race, I still wouldn't give him a 10. It'd be a 9.5 because of the mistakes he made on the race start and the mistakes following Kimi. So yeah, 0.5 for that, and then 0.5 for sprint quali and sprint. Yeah, solid weekend overall. Very, very solid weekend overall for Norris. I think he's probably my driver of the season at the moment. I think Kimi's been a little bit too inconsistent, and especially given how unlucky and inconsistent Russell's been, I don't think we've truly seen Kimi have to perform at his best at all times. Does that make sense? Whereas Lando, I think, has been performing his best almost all the time. Yes, those little mistakes, like I said, still creeping in, but pace-wise, he's been amazing. 10, McLaren best of the setup for the sprint dominant race. 9.5 at worst, they clearly unlocked some pace after the sprint. Number 5, because of the start, I don't think McLaren should have been that high in the sprint. McLaren didn't make any changes to the car after the sprint. It was only Lando making a change to his drive. I don't fault him too much for the sprint. McLaren got the setup wrong. Can't be at 10 because he lost a place at the sprint and lost a place on the race restart, but he recovered well. Norris did say he's already thinking about time management on the starting lights, so his starts are used for the future. I just think the start was bad. I don't think this car was good enough for the sprint. Unbelievable overtake to get past Kimi too. True. I don't know if the McLaren is even supposed to be up there with the Mercedes, considering Oscar was also dialed in the qualies. I'm noticing Lando prefers to be more cautious on the start and uses amazing time management and pace during the race. I mean, I don't mind that as a stretch, to be honest. I don't mind if you lose a position off the start in these regular cars and focus on the later race with strategy and pace, but at a track like this, you got to be careful. I mean, he did win in the end, but you got to be careful at a track like this. I think I said the same thing with Hungary as well, right? Both McLaren drivers have mentioned that the car is difficult to drive, so when Lando's pushing, it's inevitably instances will have wide. Yeah, that's fair. I actually don't think his second start was that bad. Kimi just kind of had it in the same one. Yeah, fair. That's a good way to look at it. Anyways, guys, that wraps up our driver ratings for the Dutch Grand Prix. Who were our highest rated drivers? I think Lando 9. I think Alonso 9. Who else? Rachel, there with the follow. Lando's winning the title if he makes up 90 points. I hope, man. I hope. Head-to-head against Piastri, he is nailing it. Yeah, true. I can't remember all the rest of our ratings, but I'm not gonna lie, that was one of the best driver ratings we've ever done. I felt like I spoke really well throughout all of it. I felt there was a lot of good things to talk about, even with it being a sprint weekend, and I felt like we didn't have much disagreements this week. So that was actually probably one of the best driver ratings of all time. Anyways, we're going to end the stream on YouTube and TikTok. So if you're watching right now over there, come join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Ponden. We do driver ratings every single Monday after a Grand Prix weekend. So if you did enjoy it, be sure to follow. Be sure to subscribe down below if you're watching on YouTube. Be sure to like. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. We're going to be staying live on Twitch, so come join us. But see you for the next driver ratings. Bye-bye.